Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob Nunez, and my presentation today is going to be on hearing impairment. So first, we're going to describe the definition of hearing impairment. Hearing impairment means a hearing impairment that is so severe that the child is impaired in processing linguistic information through hearing, with or without amplification, that adversely affects the child's education performance. Next, we have the parent-teacher friendly definition of hearing impairment. Hearing impairment is when there is a problem with one or more parts of the ear or ears that makes it hard for students to process language information, which then makes it difficult for them in the classroom. Next, we have the assessment areas for hearing impairments. First, we have the cognitive and intellectual. So these assessments should only be conducted if cognitive ability is an area of concern by the multidisciplinary team or by parents. When we are assessing these students, it is important to test their verbal intelligence, which is to analyze information and solve problems using language-based reasoning, and nonverbal intelligence, which is thinking skills and problem-solving abilities that do not require any verbal language skills. Next, we have social emotional. So this should be assessed because of the potential limitations to language and the social experiences due to hearing loss. We need to assess the student's social and emotional behaviors of concern that may interfere with their learning. And we also need to identify if there's any environmental factors that may impact their emotional state or their behavior. Next, we have language. So assessing language allows us to establish goals and identify any areas for focused instruction that will improve their communication process and their literacy skills. When we are assessing them, it is important that we look at their receptive and their expressive language. Receptive language is how a child understands language, and their expressive language is how they use their words to express themselves. And it's important that language is used for placement, curriculum, program decisions, and instructional effectiveness. Next, we have early childhood. It is also important to assess during their early childhood. In part C of our IDEA, it explains that toddlers and infants with disabilities should receive early intervention services. So early childhood services can help determine or identify any developmental delays or physical conditions, which could be hearing impairment. How hearing impairment presents in school. So students who have hearing impairment are have limited, poor, or no speech. They are frequently inattentive. They have a very difficult time learning. They fail to respond to conversation speech. They answer questions inappropriately to speech. And in the academic fields, it's difficult to learn vocabulary, grammar, word order, idiomatic expressions, and any other verbal communication skills. Next, we have accommodations for hearing impairment. So first, we want to modify curriculum and any assignments. Next, we have visual aids. Having charts, picture books, vocabulary lists, instruction outlines from the teacher will help reinforce these concepts. Next, students should have their personal hearing devices, whether that's a hearing aid, a cochlear implant, or BAHA. All three designs are the pictures on the right-hand side. Next, they'll need an audiologist. The audiologist helps with any technical issues with their hearing devices, and they also educate students on the components of the hearing device and what to do if their hearing aid stops working. Students should also have flexible seating. They should be able to sit close to the amplification towers if need be. They should have speech therapy. So speech therapists help with any issues in their voice, articulation, fluency, resonance, or any other factors. And they work with the audiologist to create plans for these students. Next is language therapy. It helps optimize listening development. So the language can cause learning problems that result in poor academic achievement. Next, they have auditory therapy, which this helps them learn to listen. So this approach stimulates auditory brain development and enables students with hearing impairments to understand how the sound is relayed through their hearing devices. So it helps develop listening and their spoken language skills. They also have amplification systems and assistive learning devices. So they have towers that are loud so they can hear throughout the whole classroom, and teachers and staff are given devices around their necks that students can hear through their hearing devices. They also have devices that go into computers so students can be able to hear videos through their amplification tower. And they also have microphones that also connected to the tower so students are able to hear other students. Next, they could also have an interpreter. That's only if students use sign language, and speech to text or closed captioning in films and videos. So next we have how to speak with parents about hearing impairment. So we want to simplify terminology for these parents. We want to use strength-based language, which focuses on the positives and not the negatives of hearing impairments. The language should not be stigmatizing or objectifying. It should be empowering, and we should avoid eliciting any pity or sympathy or reinforce any negative stereotypes. We should also use shared language. Shared language refers to developing understanding amongst ourselves based on language. So shared language is good for collaboration. It can be used to help define or redefine any terms, which makes it easier for parents and teachers to understand. This shared language can be created by a team and can be used for any future meetings where parents and teachers can understand the areas of improvement. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.